Joe Miller was fixing his old truck when the sky lit up like the 4th of July. A bright streak tore through the evening clouds, followed by a boom that shook the windows of his small farmhouse. Whatever it was, it had crashed in the woods behind his property. Joe wiped his greasy hands on a rag and squinted at the plume of smoke rising above the tree line. At 35, the former military engineer had seen his share of aircraft, but nothing that moved like that. Too fast, too bright, too wrong. Probably just a meteor, he muttered to himself, knowing full well it wasn't. His dog Rusty barked nervously from the porch, refusing to follow as Joe grabbed a flashlight and headed toward the woods. The smell hit him first, like burning metal and something sweet yet rotten. The trees around the crash site were either flattened or still smoldering. In the center of the clearing sat what could only be described as a spacecraft. It was sleek and silver, about the size of a small bus, with no visible windows or doors. No markings either. Not Russian, not Chinese, not anything Joe recognized. "Hello," Joe called out, immediately feeling foolish. Who would answer? But to his shock, a seam appeared in the smooth hull, widening into an opening. Joe's instincts told him to run, but curiosity rooted him to the spot. Inside the craft, something moved. A figure stumbled to the opening and collapsed half in, half out of the ship. Joe approached cautiously, flashlight beam revealing what was clearly not human. The creature was tall and thin, with bluish skin stretched over a frame that reminded Joe of a praying mantis. It wore some kind of metallic suit that seemed to pulse with faint light. The alien's large eyes fixed on Joe, and suddenly a voice filled his head. "Too late. They come. Soon." Joe jumped back. What the hell? The suit. Take it. Only chance. The creature's three-fingered hand weakly tapped the chest piece of its armor. To Joe's surprise, the metallic material rippled and began to separate from the alien's body. "What's coming? Who are you?" Joe asked, his heart pounding. "Vrekthor. Invasion fleet. Earth is target." Each word seemed to cause the alien pain. "This prototype, bonded to DNA, will reject, unless compatible." The suit had now completely detached from the alien, revealing its frail body underneath. The creature's breathing became more labored. "Why me?" Joe asked. "Not you. Anyone. Need. Warrior. To stop them." In the distance, Joe heard the distinct sound of helicopter rotors. Military. They'd be here soon. The alien's eyes started to dim. Choose now. Die free or fight bonded. Joe hesitated. This was crazy. Absolutely insane. But something about the dying alien's desperation felt genuine. "What do I do?" he asked. "Touch it. If compatible, it accepts." Joe reached out his hand toward the hovering metallic material. The moment his fingers made contact, the suit seemed to liquefy and surge toward him. Joe tried to pull back, but it was too late. The cool metal spread across his skin, flowing like quicksilver, covering his clothes and body in seconds. Joe panicked, trying to tear it off, but the material had already sealed seamlessly around him. For a terrifying moment, he couldn't breathe as the suit covered his face. Then suddenly, his vision cleared, sharper than before. Information appeared in his peripheral vision. Oxygen levels, temperature, heart rate. Words in an alien language that somehow translated into meaning. Neural interface established. A voice said in his mind, different from the aliens. More mechanical. Combat systems initializing. The dying alien looked at Joe with what might have been relief. "Now you are the last hope. Learn quickly, human." With that, the creature shuddered and went still. The helicopters were getting closer. Joe could now see their searchlights sweeping the forest. The suit seemed to respond to his thoughts, highlighting escape routes through the trees. "What have I done?" Joe whispered. "Survival probability increases if we depart immediately," the suit's voice replied in his mind. Joe took one last look at the dead alien and the crashed ship before running into the darkness of the forest. Joe ran through the forest faster than he had ever moved in his life. The alien suit seemed to know what his body needed before he did, adjusting to support his muscles and joints with each stride. Trees blurred past him as helicopter searchlights swept through the canopy behind. "What are you?" Joe whispered, still not used to talking to a piece of clothing. "I am Combat Exoskeleton Model Action 9, Final Prototype," the voice in his head replied. "You may assign me a designation for easier communication." "How about Max?" "Short and simple," Joe said, ducking under a low branch without even thinking about it. The suit had somehow enhanced his reflexes. "Max accepted as designation," the voice confirmed. Joe stopped by a small stream to catch his breath. His reflection in the water startled him. The suit had formed a sleek, dark covering over his entire body, with subtle blue lines pulsing along the major muscle groups. His face was visible, but a thin layer of transparent material covered it like a second skin. "Can I take you off?" Joe asked. "Negative. Bonding process is permanent. Removal would cause fatal damage to host nervous system." "Great," Joe muttered. "What exactly are you, Max? What can you do?" "I am designed for elite warriors of the Vrekthor Empire. My functions include enhanced strength, speed, reflexes, protective shielding, atmospheric adaptation, and weapons systems." "Weapons?" Joe asked, alarmed. "Affirmative. Would you like a demonstration?" "No," Joe said quickly. "Definitely not." The sound of dogs barking in the distance made Joe tense up. The military had brought search dogs. "My former wearer was a deserter," Max explained as Joe started moving again. "They fled the invasion fleet because they disagreed with the mission to conquer your world." "So there really is an invasion coming?" Joe asked, his stomach sinking. "Affirmative. The Vrekthor fleet will arrive in approximately 72 hours. Joe stumbled over a root, but the suit adjusted instantly, keeping him upright. "Why Earth? What do they want?" "Your planet's water resources and habitable land. The Vrekthor homeworld is dying." Joe spotted lights ahead. He had reached the edge of the forest near the small town of Pine Creek. He needed to think, to plan, but where could he go? His house would be watched. "Joe, is that you?" Joe spun around to see Frank Harris, his childhood friend and the local sheriff, standing at the forest edge with a flashlight. "Frank, don't shine that light on me," Joe hissed, stepping back into the shadows. "What the hell? The whole county's looking for you," Frank said, lowering his light. "Military's all over your property. They're saying something about a crashed experimental aircraft." "It's not aircraft, Frank. It's a spaceship. Alien." Frank stared at him, then noticed the suit. "What are you wearing?" "It's complicated," Joe said. "I need somewhere to hide and think." Frank hesitated. "You in trouble, Joe?" "The whole planet is in trouble," Joe replied. He glanced past Frank to the town. "Is your fishing cabin still up at Lake Myers?" "Yeah, but I need to use it, just for a day or two." Frank studied Joe's face. "You're serious about this alien stuff?" "Deadly serious." A sudden rush of energy made Joe's skin tingle. The suit was responding to something. "Threat detected," Max announced in Joe's mind. "Weapon lock from airborne vehicle." Joe looked up to see a military drone hovering silently above the tree line. "Shield activated," Max said. Joe's body moved on its own, his arm raising toward the drone. A pulse of energy shot from his palm, striking the drone and sending it crashing to the ground in pieces. Frank jumped back. "Jesus Christ. I didn't mean to do that," Joe said, staring at his hand in shock. "Automatic defense protocols," Max explained. "I will adjust permissions." Frank's radio crackled to life. "Sheriff Harris, report your position. We have lost contact with surveillance unit." Joe looked at his friend pleadingly. "Frank, I need your help. The fate of everyone might depend on it." Frank looked at the broken drone, then back at Joe. After a long moment, he switched off his radio. "The cabin keys are under the flower pot on the porch," he said quietly. "You've got 48 hours before I have to report this." "Thank you," Joe said. As Frank turned to leave, Joe called after him. "Frank, tell Diane Powell to be careful. Agent Powell, from Homeland Security. You know her?" "No," Joe said, the information somehow appearing in his mind. "But Max does." Frank's cabin sat on the edge of Lake Myers, hidden by tall pine trees. Joe had spent 2 days there, trying to learn how to control the suit. He had broken 3 chairs, a table, and put his fist through the wall before he got the hang of his new strength. "Max, is there any way to make you less visible?" Joe asked, looking at his reflection in the window. Even in the dark, the blue lines on the suit glowed faintly. "Camouflage mode available," Max replied. The suit's surface rippled, then changed to look like normal clothes, jeans, and a flannel shirt. "That's better," Joe said, touching the fake fabric that still felt like smooth metal under his fingers. Suddenly, Max's voice became urgent in his mind. "Alert. Detecting multiple orbital entry signatures." "What does that mean?" Joe asked, stepping outside the cabin. "The Vrekthor fleet has arrived." Joe looked up at the night sky. At first, he saw nothing unusual. Then tiny points of light appeared, streaking across the stars. Within minutes, they were visible even to normal human eyes. Dozens of burning trails cutting through the atmosphere. "They're early," Joe said. "You said we had 72 hours. They have accelerated their schedule." Unusual. The cabin's old television flickered on by itself. Every channel showed the same emergency broadcast. A harried news anchor spoke about unidentified objects entering Earth's atmosphere. The Pentagon had called it a potential first contact situation. Then the broadcast cut to a new signal. A harsh face appeared on screen, similar to the alien Joe had met, but broader, with red markings on its bluish skin. "People of Earth," the alien spoke in accented but clear English. "I am Commander Vexul of the Vrekthor Empire. We come seeking a thief and a sacred relic stolen from us. Return what was taken, and we will depart peacefully. Refuse, and we will retrieve it ourselves." The image changed to show a rendering of Joe's suit. "This combat skin is sacred to our people," Vexul continued. "It was stolen by a traitor who crashed on your world. The human who now wears it has 24 hours to surrender at these coordinates. Failure to comply will result in limited military action." The television showed a map with a blinking point in the middle of nowhere. "They're hunting me," Joe said. "Affirmative," Max replied. "The Axiom 9 suit. This unit is more than standard armor. I contain the complete tactical database of Vrekthor military operations, and something else they fear." "What?" The previous owner was not just any deserter. They were the child of the supreme leader who discovered the true purpose of the invasion and tried to warn your species. Joe sat heavily on the couch. "So I'm wearing the alien version of nuclear launch codes stolen by the alien president's rebel kid." An imprecise but adequate analogy. The television changed again. Now the President of the United States appeared, flanked by military officials. "My fellow Americans, we face an unprecedented situation. I urge everyone to remain calm. We are in communication with the Vrekthor representatives. To the individual currently in possession of the alien technology, I strongly urge you to contact authorities immediately. The safety of our nation, and perhaps our world, depends on your cooperation." Standing beside the president was a woman with sharp eyes and a stern expression. The screen identified her as Dr. Olivia Grant, Cynobiology advisor. "That woman," Max said. "She has the knowledge to help us." "How do you know?" "The suit contains memories and knowledge from its previous wearer. Dr. Grant has studied fragments of Vrekthor technology from previous scout missions to Earth." Joe's phone rang, startling him. It was Frank. "Joe, military's setting up checkpoints on every road. They're looking for a man in a high-tech suit. That's you, isn't it? Yeah, Joe admitted. Agent Powell is leading the search team. She's smart, Joe. She'll find you. Joe made a decision. I'm turning myself in. What? Are you crazy? I can't hide forever, and I've got information they need. Tell Agent Powell I'll be at the North Ranger Station in 1 hour. Joe hung up and stood. Max, are you with me on this? I am bonded to you. I have no choice. That's not what I asked. After a pause, Max replied, Yes, I am with you. But you should know, my programming has certain limitations regarding the Vrekthor. What do you mean? You will discover soon enough. The ranger station was surrounded by military vehicles when Joe arrived. Soldiers with guns pointed at him from every direction. He kept his hands up, the suit still in its camouflage mode looking like normal clothes. I'm the one you're looking for, Joe called out. I'm wearing the alien suit. Agent Diane Powell stepped forward. She was tall with short brown hair and eyes that missed nothing. Joe Miller. I'm Agent Powell. We've been looking for you. I know. I'm turning myself in to help. Smart move, she said, nodding to the soldiers. Secure him. 2 soldiers approached with handcuffs. The moment they touched Joe's wrists, the suit reacted. Blue lines appeared through the fake clothes, and the handcuffs melted away. Stand down, Powell shouted as soldiers raised their weapons. Mr. Miller, control that thing. I'm trying, Joe said. Max, let them secure me. They're not the enemy. Cannot comply, Max's voice said in his head. Primary defense protocols active. A helicopter appeared overhead, its spotlight focused on Joe. Suddenly, a missile streaked across the sky, hitting the helicopter. It crashed in a ball of fire behind the trees. We're under attack, a soldier yelled. More explosions followed, not from Joe's suit, but from the sky. 3 sleek, silver craft descended, firing energy weapons at the military vehicles. Soldiers scattered for cover. Vrekthor hunter-seekers, Max informed Joe. They have found us. Powell grabbed Joe's arm. Inside. Now. They ran into the ranger station as the alien craft landed outside. Powell pushed Joe into a back room where Dr. Olivia Grant was waiting with strange equipment. Is this him? Dr. Grant asked. She was younger than Joe expected, with keen eyes behind glasses. Yes, Powell said, locking the door. And we got company. The aliens found us. Grant approached Joe without fear. Mr. Miller, we don't have much time. That suit is the key to everything. Outside, they heard the sound of fighting as the remaining soldiers engaged the Vrekthor forces. Max told me the suit contains their tactical database, Joe said. It's more than that, Grant replied. According to our translations of the message, that suit is some kind of prototype with capabilities beyond their standard armor. We need to understand it. She lifted a scanner. May I? Joe nodded. The scanner hummed as it moved over his body. Fascinating, Grant murmured. The integration with your nervous system is complete. The molecular structure is unlike anything we've seen. A loud bang shook the door. The Vrekthor were trying to break in. We need to go, Powell said, drawing her gun. There's a tunnel under this building, part of an old fire escape system. As they moved toward a hidden trapdoor, Joe felt the suit tighten around him. Warning, Max said. Proximity to Vrekthor command signals activating restriction protocols. What does that mean? Joe asked aloud. Grant looked at him. Is the suit talking to you? Yes. It says something about restriction protocols. Grant's eyes widened. The suit might have programming that prevents it from being used against its makers. The door splintered as a Vrekthor warrior broke through. It was taller than a human, with blue-gray skin and wearing armor similar to Joe's suit but bulkier. Powell fired her gun. The bullets bounced off the alien's armor. Joe tried to step forward to help, but his body froze. Cannot engage Vrekthor military personnel, Max stated. Primary restriction active. The alien warrior raised its weapon at Powell. Without thinking, Joe shouted, "Max, override. They're going to kill her." Something changed in the suit. Joe felt a burning sensation throughout his body. Override accepted. Emergency protocols engage. Joe's arm shot forward, and a blast of energy erupted from his palm, hitting the Vrekthor warrior square in the chest. The alien flew backward through the broken door. "How did you do that?" Grant asked, amazed. "I don't know," Joe said, looking at his hand. "But we need to leave now." Powell pulled open the trapdoor. "This way." As they descended into the tunnel, Joe heard Max's voice again. "Warning. Override successful, but temporary. Core programming damage. New capabilities unlocked, but system instability increasing." "What does that mean?" Joe whispered. "It means," Grant said, overhearing him, "that you're changing the suit as much as it's changing you." The tunnel led them to an old bunker half a mile from the ranger station. Powell secured the heavy metal door behind them as Grant set up portable equipment on a dusty table. "We should be safe here for a while," Powell said. "This place isn't on any official maps." Joe sat on a crate, feeling strange pulses of energy flowing through the suit. The blue lines glowed brighter than before, and occasional sparks jumped between them. "Something's happening to the suit," he said. Grant immediately came over with her scanner. "Your override caused a conflict in its programming. The restriction protocols and the combat functions are fighting each other." "Is that dangerous?" Joe asked. "For the suit or for you?" Grant replied. "Because you're so integrated, I'm not sure there's a difference anymore." Powell checked her satellite phone. "The Vrekthor have attacked military bases in 6 countries. They're looking for you, Miller. Why is this suit so important to them?" Joe wondered aloud. "Let's find out," Grant said. She connected her scanner to a laptop. "The data I'm getting is incredible. This isn't just battle armor. I don't even have words for it." Joe closed his eyes, feeling a strange connection forming in his mind. Images flashed before him, alien worlds, battles, and faces he didn't recognize. "I can see things," he said quietly. "Memories, I think. Not mine." "The previous owners?" Grant asked, excited. "Yes. Their name was Kirvan, the child of Supreme Leader Dravkor. They discovered something terrible." Powell moved closer. "What did they find out?" "The Vrekthor don't just want our water," Joe said, his voice distant as he accessed the alien memories. "They want to eliminate humans completely. We're too similar to them genetically. They fear we might evolve to rival them someday." Grant's eyes widened. "That explains the analysis of their weapons. They're designed to target human DNA specifically." "There's something else," Joe continued. "This suit, it contains a kill switch for their entire fleet. Kirvan stole it to stop the invasion." Powell stared at him. "A kill switch? As in, we could disable their weapons." "All their systems," Joe confirmed, opening his eyes. "But I don't know how to activate it." A deep rumble shook the bunker. Dust fell from the ceiling. "They're bombing the area," Powell said. "They must be desperate to find you." Grant looked at her computer. "According to this, the suit is rebuilding its programming, adapting to you. The more you sync with it, the more functions you'll be able to access." "How do I sync with it?" Joe asked. "The memories are the key," Grant said. "You need to fully connect with Kirvan's consciousness stored in the suit." Joe stood up, wincing as another pulse of energy surged through him. "I'll try." He closed his eyes again, focusing on the alien memories. This time, instead of just watching them, he tried to merge with them. The sensation was overwhelming, like falling into an ocean of alien thoughts. Joe saw the Vrekthor homeworld, dying from pollution and resource depletion. He felt Kirvan's horror at discovering their father's plan to eradicate humanity. He experienced Kirvan's desperate flight to Earth, hoping to warn humans and stop the invasion. "Joe," Grant's voice seemed distant. Joe opened his eyes. The suit had changed. The blue lines now formed complex patterns across his body, pulsing in sync with his heartbeat. "I understand now," he said. His voice sounded different, carrying harmonics that weren't human. "The kill switch is encoded in the suit's quantum matrix. I need to access the Vrekthor mothership to activate it." Powell looked skeptical. "And how exactly do you plan to get aboard an alien mothership?" With this, Joe said, raising his hand. The suit formed a small sphere of energy above his palm. "It's a beacon. It will make them come to us." "Are you insane?" Powell demanded. "You want to summon them here?" "Not here," Joe said, his eyes reflecting the blue glow of the suit. "Somewhere we can control the battlefield." Grant studied her computer. "The suit's power levels are increasing exponentially. It's fully accepted you as its owner now. The restrictions are being rewritten." Another explosion, closer this time, rocked the bunker. "We need to move," Powell said. "There's a military convoy heading to a secure facility in the mountains. We can meet them halfway." "Good," Joe said, "because I have a plan. But you're not going to like it." "Why not?" Grant asked. Joe smiled grimly. "Because it involves me surrendering to the Vrekthor." The mountain facility was a concrete fortress built into the side of a cliff. Military vehicles formed a protective ring around it. Inside, Joe stood in the center of a large room, surrounded by screens showing Vrekthor ships in Earth's orbit. "This is a terrible plan," Powell said, watching technicians set up equipment around Joe. "It's the only plan," Joe replied. The suit had changed again, now fitting him like a second skin. The blue lines formed complex circuits across his body. Captain Scott Allen, the facility's commander, approached with Dr. Grant. "The communication array is ready. We can broadcast on the frequency you provided." "Are you sure about this?" Grant asked Joe. "Once you're on their ship, we can't help you." Joe nodded. "Max and I are fully synchronized now. We can do this." "The suit's consciousness has a name?" Powell asked. "It always did," Joe said. "I just didn't understand what it was before." Allen checked his watch. "The Vrekthor have given us 2 hours to respond to their ultimatum. They've destroyed military bases in 3 countries already." Joe moved to the center of the communication array. "Let's do this before I change my mind." Grant activated the system. "Broadcasting now." Joe closed his eyes, feeling Max help him form the right words in the alien language. When he spoke, his voice carried the harsh clicks and tones of Vrekthor speech. "This is the bearer of the Axiom 9 combat skin. I offer myself in exchange for cessation of hostilities against Earth." The largest screen flickered, showing the face of Commander Vexol. The alien's red-marked face showed what might have been surprise. "You speak our tongue, human," Vexol said. "The armor has bonded with you deeply. I offer surrender on one condition," Joe continued. "I will come to you alone, but only to speak with Supreme Leader Dravkor directly." Vexol's eyes narrowed. "You dare make demands?" "I possess knowledge from Kirvan," Joe said. "Information meant for the Supreme Leader's ears only." The alien commander was silent for a long moment. "Very well. A transport will descend at your location in 1 hour. Any treachery will result in the immediate destruction of your largest cities." The screen went dark. "They agreed," Allen said, surprised. "Of course they did," Joe replied. "They're desperate to get this suit back." Powell stepped forward. "What exactly is your plan once you're up there?" Joe touched the center of his chest, where the suit glowed brightest. "The kill switch requires a specific sequence activated from their command center. Once there, I can disable their entire fleet." "And how do you plan to get to the command center?" Allen asked skeptically. "By giving them exactly what they want," Joe said. "Me." Grant handed Joe a small device. "This is a quantum tracker. It might work through their shields. At least we'll know where you are." Joe slipped it into a compartment the suit formed in his arm. "Thank you." The hour passed quickly. Joe spent it absorbing more of Kurvan's memories, preparing for what was to come. He learned more about Vrekthor culture, their military protocols, and most importantly, their weaknesses. Transport detected, a soldier called out, moving into position. Everyone gathered at the main window. A sleek silver craft descended from the clouds, hovering over the clearing in front of the facility. Powell approached Joe one last time. "You don't have to do this. We can find another way." "There is no other way," Joe said. "Their ships are designed to withstand anything Earth can throw at them." Captain Allen saluted Joe. "Good luck, Miller." Joe walked outside alone. The alien craft landed, its side opening to reveal 4 Vrekthor warriors in armor similar to, but less advanced than, his suit. "Max," Joe whispered, "are you with me?" "Always," the suit replied in his mind. "We are one now. Can we really do this?" Joe asked, suddenly doubtful. The human spirit combined with Vrekthor technology. They have never encountered such a combination before. That is our advantage. Joe took a deep breath and walked toward the alien craft. The Vrekthor warriors surrounded him, their weapons ready. "The Supreme Leader awaits," one said. As Joe entered the craft, he felt the suit pulse with energy. It was preparing for battle. Within minutes, the Earth fell away below them as they ascended toward the massive mothership looming in orbit. Now, Joe thought, the real fight begins. The Vrekthor mothership was enormous, like a floating city in space. Joe was led through corridors lined with armed guards, all watching him with a mixture of fear and anger. His suit had gone into a low-power mode, the blue lines barely visible. "They hate me," Joe thought. "They fear the suit," Max replied in his mind. "And what you represent." The guards brought Joe to a vast chamber. At its center stood a throne-like chair, where a larger Vrekthor sat. Supreme Leader Dravkor's skin was darker blue than the others, with elaborate red markings covering most of their face. "So," Dravkor said, voice deep and rumbling, "you are the human who wears my child's armor." Joe stepped forward. "And you are the leader who plans to destroy my species." Dravkor's eyes narrowed. "You speak boldly for a prisoner." "I'm not a prisoner," Joe said. "I'm a messenger." 2 guards moved to flank Joe, weapons ready. Dravkor waved them back. "What message do you bring, human?" Joe felt Max feeding him Kurvan's memories. "Your child discovered your true plans for Earth, not just to take our water, but to eliminate humans entirely. Kurvan couldn't accept that genocide." Dravkor stood, towering over Joe. "My child was weak, sentimental. The armor was never meant for them. The armor chose Kurvan," Joe countered, "just as it chose me. A temporary malfunction." Dravkor said dismissively, "Soon our scientists will remove it from your corpse." Joe smiled slightly. "You can try." With that, Joe activated the suit's full power. The blue lines flared brightly, and a pulse of energy knocked the nearby guards off their feet. Joe moved with inhuman speed, dodging energy blasts from the remaining guards. "Kill him," Dravkor roared. Joe raced across the chamber toward a control panel he recognized from Kurvan's memories. The guards stationed there fired, but Joe's suit projected a shield that absorbed the blast. "The command center is 3 levels up," Max informed him. Joe placed his hand on the panel. The suit interfaced with the ship's systems, overriding the local security. A door slid open, revealing a transport tube. "Stop him," Dravkor shouted as Joe leaped into the tube. The tube carried Joe upward at high speed. When it stopped, he emerged into a smaller chamber filled with Vrekthor technicians. They scattered at the sight of him. "There," Max directed. In the center of the room stood a crystalline structure pulsing with energy. Joe moved toward it, but a powerful energy blast hit him from behind. He stumbled forward, the suit absorbing most of the impact. He turned to see Commander Vexel holding an advanced weapon. "You will not defile our sacred technology," Vexel snarled, firing again. This time, Joe was ready. The suit formed a reflective shield, bouncing the blast back at Vexul. The commander dove aside, but not quickly enough. The blast caught his leg, sending him crashing into a control panel. Joe reached the crystal structure. "What now?" "Place your hands on the crystal," Max instructed. "I will do the rest." Joe pressed his palms against the cool surface. The suit's blue lines connected with similar lines within the crystal. Information flowed between them, codes, commands, and finally, the kill switch sequence. Alarms blared throughout the ship. The lights flickered and dimmed. All Vrekthor systems shutting down, Max announced. Weapons disabled. Shields failing. Vexul, dragging his injured leg, lunged at Joe with a blade. Joe sidestepped and caught the commander's arm. "It's over," Joe said. "Your invasion is finished." From behind, Dravkor entered the command center, flanked by elite guards. The Supreme Leader looked at the failing systems in disbelief. "What have you done?" Dravkor demanded. "What Kirvan would have done," Joe replied. "Saved both our species." Joe activated the communication system. Dr. Grant's face appeared on a large screen. "Joe, are you okay?" she asked anxiously. "I'm fine. The Vrekthor fleet is disabled. Their weapons and shields are down." Grant smiled. "We know. Our satellites show all their ships are drifting." Joe turned to Dravkor. "Here's what happens now. You and your people will leave Earth's solar system. In exchange, Earth will provide water and resources to help your homeworld." "Why would we agree to this?" Dravkor growled. "Because right now, Earth's missiles are locked on every one of your helpless ships," Joe said. "And because it's what Kirvan would have wanted." Dravkor stared at Joe for a long moment, then slowly bowed their head. "You fight well, human. Perhaps our species are more alike than I wish to admit." 3 months later, Joe stood on a platform at the United Nations, still wearing the suit that had become part of him. Representatives from Earth and a small delegation of Vrekthor signed the first interstellar peace treaty.